that are doing amazing things while serving God and humanity in the process. Join us on Ask Mother this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us to hear each amazing journey these young people are pursuing. Please like, share, and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube and other media outlets, as well as AskMother.net. We look forward to Preston Butler III is a multi-hyphenate who engages in acting, film, and music. He has performed in theaters across the country as well as internationally in France, Belgium, and Scotland. Butler shined in his recent network television debut on NCIS as jazz pianist Kendall Ratcliffe. Previously, Butler delivered an award-winning performance as Kitch in the West Coast premiere of Passover by Antoinette Nwandu. He portrayed Muhammad Ali in Fetch Clay, Make Man, a play exploring Ali's friendship with Hollywood's first black millionaire, Stepin Fetchit. As if playing one boxing champion wasn't enough, he also embodied a fictional character based on Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champ, in an award-winning production of The Royale at Cleveland Playhouse. After losing his job in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Butler produced, wrote, and recorded a 5-track music project entitled Psalms 30. All from his home in just a matter of weeks. It is now available for free on all music streaming platforms. Butler is currently directing a workshop of a new play that he wrote entitled God So Loved, Do We? He is a teaching artist with Arts Up LA, an arts program that offers free acting classes to LA Unified Schools, and is also a leader at his church, the Father's House, Orange County, where he leads his gifts to create faith-based film content. He is a graduate of the MFA acting program at the California Institute of the Arts. God bless you and welcome Preston Butler III.
Welcome to Ask Mother. We have been at this for a year now, but this week we are showcasing young people. And we want the world to know, all of Ask Mother's world, to know that we have young people who have stayed the course. We've had some who have had some dips, but they got up and the Lord has helped them and they're moving forward. And one of those young people is Preston Butler III, better known as Trey. And we're so happy to have you with us, Trey. And I know you have a super busy schedule. And if any of you saw NCIS on Tuesday night, you saw him on that episode. And we're so happy to have him to take out this time to talk to us. Okay, so Trey, you grew up in a military family. What are the advantages and the disadvantages that you experienced? Your daddy was in the military, what, 21, 22 years,
Right.
and y'all moved 15 times, according to your mom. Now, just kind of talk to us a little bit about that, because when you came to Louisville, you were 5 years
That's right.
old. Now, let's hear you talk about what that was like, the advantages and the disadvantages as you see them. How did they shape you?
Sure. I guess I'll really talk about the advantages because, to be honest, I don't imagine that there were too many disadvantages. Moving a lot. I mean, as a kid, you're not the one packing up the stuff and moving, so you just gotta say, "Where are we going?" Okay, cool. But really, I feel like it was very advantageous because I had the opportunity to travel all over the world. I was born in Panama. I've lived in South Korea. I've lived on the East Coast and the West Coast. And so in many ways, it forced me as a young child to learn to how to adapt to any situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it made me actually forced me to be more friendly and sociable to people because if you just shy and you don't talk to nobody and you moving every 2 years, you ain't gonna have no friends.
Right.
And I think obviously just in our digital era, people are so sort of stuck to a phone. They don't know how to have a conversation with somebody. So in many ways, I think that helped me. Even also, it bleeds into my profession about just being a performer and being comfortable in whatever situation I'm in. And also, my dad being in the military, he was very hard on me, as I'll put it. That's the nice way to say it. But he forced me to be very disciplined at a young age. And even though I also played sports, which also taught me a little bit about that, but they were character traits that helped me as an adult more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it to be very advantageous.
How did you deal with the times that your dad was deployed away from home? And your dad was an officer, but how did, I don't know if he got deployed as much as the others, but tell me, how was that? How did that impact you?
Well, I'm the middle child and I have two sisters. So in many ways, it was tough because I was just the only guy around.
Okay.
And so, even though I was very expressive and I talked a lot, just ask my mom, sometimes I felt that I wasn't necessarily heard often.
Okay.
And so that I think is something I had to deal with as I was growing up and learning, I value when people listen to me because I didn't feel like I was heard all the time when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was nice because my dad ended up, when we moved to California, he ended up not being deployed for a very long time. And that was really when I was a teenager. I was moving into my teenage and being like a man. And so having him around during that time was really crucial, which is also, I understand, is a benefit because a lot of young men don't have their fathers. Or if they have their father, they're not really involved in their life, or they're not really an example of who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just very blessed to have my father who was involved in my life, who wasn't just do as I say and not as I do, but he led by example in that way.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And you were in between two girls. So how did you navigate?
Well, I'll say this. Both of our my relationship with both my sisters is much better today. I think that it was also just being young and, trying to not feel like somebody could tell you what to do and, all of that. We definitely butted heads a lot when we were younger, but I think that as we grew older, we all have artistic endeavors and interests. My older sister, Chelsea, she's a phenomenal singer and musician and producer. My younger sister, she's, again, a phenomenal singer, musician, producer, and actress. And so I think as we got older, we really found that we had more in common than we didn't. And so, but it was tough. It was tough for sure, man. I felt like the ugly ducklings a lot.
What do you think grounded you all? What grounded you all so that you knew what to expect no matter where you moved? You knew what foundational things to expect. What grounded you?
The church, for sure. and our relationship with God. Our parents were very involved in the church. They are very devout believers, Holy Ghost filled, sanctified. So we come from Kojic. And so everywhere you go in the world, for the most part, there is a Kojic church.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really positive, I think, experience for all three of us, to have a community of people that we knew we could connect to, that had the same beliefs and values as us, no matter where we went. And I think that we also, at a very young age, all took our relationship with the Lord very seriously. And so that was also the thing that, it's like, okay, at the end of the day, we might fight, we might bicker and all that, but, we still have to love each other, like the Bible tells us to.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Trey, when did you know you wanted to be an actor?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I think at some moment in high school, I started to do some productions. I saw a production of Dracula at an assembly in 10th grade. And the guy, Kevin O'Cleary, that was his name. He was playing Dracula. And I was watching him and I was like, I think I can do that. And so I auditioned for the next play. And I got it. It was Shakespeare. And luckily, my high school theater director, Miss Sharon Strong, she was like, "Hey, you're really good at this. You should try to audition more." And so I just kept coming back. And I realized, man, being up there on stage, people were laughing and they were like, "Man, you're so good at this." And I was like, "Really? Okay."
Okay.
So I enjoyed it a lot, but at the same time, I was also really considering or pursuing basketball. That was like the top priority before acting. But I remember I went and auditioned for my undergrad, Vanguard University, for the theater department. And on the way home, I had also met with the basketball coach and all that. But on the way home, my dad went with me, and he was like, "Yeah, man, you should really think about pursuing this theater thing." And I was like, "Huh? Are you sure? You for real?" He was like, "Yeah, man, you're really good at this, and you should see where it goes." And so, I said, "All right, well, we'll see how it works." I was still trying to figure out what I was doing. I played basketball in college a little bit, but I think it was my junior year of college. I had to decide, do I want to play basketball, or do I really, really want to just try to put everything I got into acting in my last year? And at the time, I chose acting. I said, I'm not really quite 6 feet, and I can't shoot that good, but I feel like I can do this acting thing with my arms tied behind my back and my eyes closed. So I think that's a sign. I think that's a sign. That's a gift that the Lord gave me. So I think it was probably my junior year of college.
Okay, wonderful. Now, well, talk to us about your challenges as a Christian who has also chosen acting as a career. What are some challenges?
There's a lot.
I think we talked about that.
Yes. I would say that probably the biggest challenge in many ways is that the arts in general, right, are really an investigation of things that are. They're an investigation of the human experience. They're an investigation of what we consider to be true. And what I feel like the arts is a complication of those things, right? It's do you really believe what you believe because you know, or do you believe it because you've been taught to think that way? So it's a lot of challenging a lot of things. And so in many ways, I feel like there's a lot of leaning of the industry in general to be secularized. Because it's like, well, how can you prove for sure that the Bible is real? How do you, those are just morals and things that you think are true, or heaven. How can you prove that those things are real? And it's an investigation of those, are those things real? And so in many ways, I had to be firm in my own understanding and my own belief about what I believe and why I believe. Because if you're not sure in that, if you're not strong in that, then it's easily to be swayed. Right. And also there's the idea of fame and fortune and all the things that come with them, women and drugs and money. And those are things that will easily draw you away from your relationship with God. So it's tempting. That's a fact. And it's not easy. Right. But I think that you have to have a perspective about what is it that I'm doing this for? Okay. Right. And for me, I feel like God said, hey, I gave you the ability to storytell and to act so that way you can shine a light on kingdom things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I'm always telling stories that are faith-based, right? That means that I can be a light when I go into a secular industry, and I can be on set and not do all the things that everybody else is doing. That I can actually show those people that, hey, I'm a Christian, and you might be homosexual, and you might live a different lifestyle, but I can still show you the love of Christ.
Yes. That's wonderful. And really what you're saying, Trey, is you've just got to be very sure about where you are. You've got to be absolutely grounded. And from what I know about you and your family, then that has been modeled, not just told you, but actually modeled before you. Right. And you then have adopted that as your way of life, which is great. Really wonderful. But being a multi-hyphenate, hallelujah, hyphenate, what do you do in between role assignments?
Whew, it's a lot. Let me tell you, because being a struggling artist is real.
Yeah.
But I teach. I teach elementary students. I work with a program called Arts Up LA, and we offer free arts training to schools in the LA Unified School District. I've had to do Uber. I've had to do all kinds of things in the meantime. Yeah. Because work is just not consistent. But I know that that's a part of the game. That's just a part of how it is.
Well, the fact that you went ahead and completed your master's degree, you kind of tried to make sure that you weren't one of those starving artists, that you would always have something that you could do, and that on the professional lifestyle. So that's wonderful. But I know that you've done stage and now TV. Talk to us about the differences.
Oh, man. Well, theater in many ways is much more of a collaborative process. So typically you'll have rehearsal before about 3.5 weeks, and then you perform for about 3.5 to 4 weeks. And so in that 3.5 weeks where you're rehearsing, you've got the director and the costume designer, the scenic designer, your castmates. And there's a lot of discussion about what is the piece? What is the character? What are the moments? How are we going to block the scene? Where does everybody go? How's it all going to fit together? And for me, I love that. I love that process because it allows me to have a real deep understanding and connection to all of the things. But TV is a lot faster, a lot faster, and it's less collaborative. So for the most part, you memorize your lines, you show up to set, they put you in what your costume is. You go to your makeup trailer, you show up on set. They'll spend about maybe 10, 15 minutes, depending on what the scene is, to rehearse and tell you, okay, this is how it's all going to go. Wow. And then it's showtime. And that's it. So the process is expedited really, really fast.
Wow.
Really fast.
Okay. Well, we were blessed to see your portrayal of Jack Johnson and Muhammad Ali. That was amazing. Talk to us about that. It was on stage. It was wonderful. And it seemed that was what you loved to do. Both of those were boxing roles, but also a lot into their character as well. So just kind of talk to us about getting into character, and how are you able to be as convincing as you were? You were very convincing.
Well, thank you. Those two opportunities to play a fictionalized character of Jack Johnson, Jay Jackson in The Royale, and to play Muhammad Ali in Fetch Clay McMahon. I consider those opportunities a blessing because I was really like a year or two out of grad school, and it's really, sometimes you got to pay your dues is kind of how they put it, right? So you kind of play spear thrower on the left, over here in this production, you got your one little scene in this show over here. But really in both of those shows, I was on stage almost the whole time.
Right.
And so they really, in terms of the responsibility of stepping into those character shoes, it was also really great for me because they were both really young and they were both doing something that nobody really had ever done before. So in many ways, I was able to draw on that from my own personal experience, being like, okay, I'm the new kid on the block, but I'm the lead in this play. So I have a lot of responsibility. There's a lot that I'm trying to accomplish. But aside from that, I also, just as an actor, I really get into character by like physical sensation. I guess the technique that they call is outside in. So really, it's more about like what my body feels and what my body is doing that allows me to influence or influences me to tell the truth of a character that I can't like think about on my own, right? Because when I'm reading my lines, I could be like, oh, well, I think this and I think that, and this is how I'm going to play the scene. But then when you get in the scene, you really want to trust your feelings, what your body is actually experiencing in the moment. So I had to do a lot of working out. Goodness gracious, I was in the best shape of my life. Okay.
Yeah, you were.
Which was awesome because I also think of acting as an athletic event. You know, you have to use your mouth, your breathing, your body, everything. It's just like playing a sport. So I had to train really hard for those roles. And then also I had an opportunity to really look into the psyche of these men and men who accomplished great things. And that in turn, I think also helped me as just Preston, because I was like, wow, like their dedication, their discipline, their drive, their ambition, their commitment to believing in themselves was just so powerful. So I had to dip into that in my own self and believe in myself to really, I think, portray the truth of who they were.
You actually portrayed them very convincingly.
Yes.
We were blessed to be in Cleveland and then in Dallas at the theater there to just observe. And I watched you and I watched the whole thing, and you had each performance had to bring out something different, didn't it? You couldn't just keep doing the same thing. Each performance, you had to have a different nuance, didn't you?
Yeah, that's true.
And the other characters had to be able to grasp that and move with it.
That's right.
That was wonderful because you were the star of both of those. That was really something. Okay, so you performed in theaters across the country as well as internationally in France and Belgium and Scotland. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I was fortunate enough to co-create a piece when I was at Cal Arts doing my MFA there in acting, to work with a director named Brian Carbine. And we created a neo-soul hip-hop album that was infused with a play. When We Dead Awaken was the classical play, and an Ibsen piece. And so we adapted the play, brought it into the 21st century, put some people of color into the show. And so the music was intertied into the entire performance. And we were selected by Cal Arts to participate in the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland. That was in 2018, I believe. Or no, I'm so sorry. Wow. Gosh, it was in 2016. 2016. Wow. Time is just flying by. I'm like, what again? And then I also had an opportunity right after I graduated from Cal Arts. I was a part of a collaboration with the National Theater in Saint-Étienne in France and Cal Arts, the Cal Arts New Performance. And we devised a piece with a playwright, Alicia Harris, award-winning playwright. She's really incredible. And we were able to tour in France and Paris, Saint-Étienne and Nice, and then also in Belgium as well with a world premiere of a play called Four. And so that's also where I had the opportunity to ask my now wife, then girlfriend, to be my fiance and to marry me. So that was a really, really awesome experience as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That was my next thing. We can't have an interview without including Christina. She's a phenomenal young woman. Now, you and your wife, Christina, you have just celebrated your second anniversary. What challenges does your career pose to your marriage? Because I know that when you were doing plays, you were gone, and you were gone, a while. And then and then sometimes getting paid, and then other times getting a little bit paid, and and then sometimes not paid. And so, how did all this work out?
Yeah.
What things have you all put in place?
Hmm.
There are some things that you won't go past, some things that you will see to happening. Talk to us about what things you all have decided, you've agreed on, and you've stuck to, and you mean to stick to it.
Yeah, that's man, such a great question. I think that where this has to start is really about what I was mentioning about being sure and grounded in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because even before Christine and I became really serious in talking about marriage and engagement and all those things, I was very sure that the pursuit of being an actor was what I believed was my God-given purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I was very sure about that, I was able to be clear to be like, hey, look, this profession that I'm walking into, that I believe God has called me into, I'm going to be away often. I'm probably not going to make a whole lot of money in the beginning. I may not ever make a whole lot of money. Money is going to be, like you said, seasonal sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But if those are things, if being away is going to be an issue, if it's it's a deal breaker, if not having a spouse or partner who's going to have consistent income all the time, if those are going to be deal breakers for you, I'm letting you know up front.
Mm-hmm.
So in many ways, we were able to have some of those discussions while we were dating. So that way you say, okay, well, if these are things you just really can't live with, even as much as I love you and I want it to work, I'm not going to hold you to those things.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's right for either person to try to force the other person expectations upon them that just aren't realistic, depending on what they really want to do with your life.
Yeah, it won't work.
That's right. So thank God, hallelujah, that she said, you know what, like, it's not my favorite, but they're not deal breakers.
Mm-hmm.
So in many ways, we were able to kind of talk about those things. Those are kind of really what I would say, so almost like technical things of a relationship, logistical things of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think as we started to get more serious, there had to be more conversations about like, okay, well, if you are being intimate on stage or in a show, what are your lines, right? And then I also, as now my wife, I also have to ask her, well, what are your lines for me? What are things that you don't want me to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then have an open dialogue and conversation about what those things are, because it is my duty to respect her and to hear her out. The same way that, like, I would hope that she hears me out and respects the things that I'm pouring. And then having a place of compromise, I think, is always really important. And then also just being led by the Spirit and being like, okay, like, yeah, the industry is going to ask me to do this and this and that, but I have to be clear. Like you said, where's the line? I have to be clear for myself what that is.
Have you talked to your manager about where your line is?
Yes, my managers and my agents knew from day one.
Okay.
There were certain things that I wasn't going to do. But again, it's an evolving conversation because as the industry and times change, there are going to be new things and new lines and new requests for you to do. And you'll have to assess those things as they come. But for the most part, they are very clear on what I will and what I won't do, what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with. But it gets deep because, Granby, that's what I call, for those of you who are watching Ask Mother, this is my Granby. Granby, sometimes, before I was like, okay, I'm not interested in doing any kind of nudity at all. Like if it's full nudity, I'll do shirtless, playing boxers, things like that. Okay. But no full nudity. But then I watched 12 Years a Slave and I saw Solomon Northup being completely naked and chained to a rock as a slave. And I said, well, that might change. Because it's really about what is the intent of the storytelling, right?
Okay.
Because that moment is not sexualizing his body.
Right.
That is stripping him of all kind of decency and humanity.
Right.
Moment, and showing you the power of what that moment is. So those are the nuanced conversations that you have to have with your spouse. Because it's not just so black and white. Even curse words, I tell people all the time, I say, hey, somebody had to play the devil. If you're going to tell the story of Jesus and Satan, somebody got to play the devil, and you can't, the devil just all good? No. But you have to understand what the story is telling. If the story is saying, oh, well, Satan is right and he's going to conquer Jesus, then I'm like, okay, no. But if it's the truth that when you do these things, when you do these sinful things that are against the word of God, ultimately they're going to lead to death, which is what the Bible says. The wages of sin are death.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to take the storytelling, I think, into context too. So luckily, my wife is a wonderful communicator. And she's open to having these conversations with me, and I appreciate that about her very, very, very much.
Yes, she's a beautiful young woman. But now tell me, with all that you have to do and all that you have been asked to do and probably will be asked to do, what is your involvement with your local church? How much do you show up for your church and cast your belief forward in Christ? How do you do that?
That's great. I think that many times, as performers or artists or just young people who are busy, and I was this person, it's like, I don't really have a lot of time, to give to the church, and, Sundays are tricky too. And, but once I got married, I was like, okay, we need to find a home church. That's just a priority. And I'm sorry that it took so long, Lord, forgive me, that it took so long for me to realize that I had to be married for that to be a priority. But, I think that when I joined the church that I serve at now, the Father's House, Orange County, it was one of those things that I also knew, like, okay, well, once I find a church, I know they're about to put me to work, because I can't just come up and show up and sit there and be like, okay, bye, y'all. I wasn't trained that way. And so I think it is our duty to make sure that we are giving back in that way, whether it's our time, whether it's in serving the church and the community. I think we do have a duty to do that as believers. And so, what's funny is that at the beginning of the pandemic of last year, in March of 2020, I had really gotten plugged in just a little bit before with my church. And, I was helping creatively on the creative team and doing some different projects. And I was like, man, Lord, he had just opened up a door for me to do a project that was going to be for 7 months in Oregon. This was the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So I was headed up there. I left and I was like, man, Lord, why'd you have me get plugged into this church and then take me away for 7 months? And so I was up there for rehearsal for 2 weeks and the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, you're going to go back home. And so what was funny about it was that before I left, he said, when you come back, I want you to give the free time that you have when you're not acting or you're not teaching. I want you to give that free time to the church. And I said, okay, all right, cool. So when I get back, I got to give my free time to the church. I didn't know I was going to be up there 2 weeks and then I was going to be back. And so he said, okay, time to get to work. And so I actually serve as the lead of the storytelling team at my church, where I'm able to help with video content, digital content, and really telling the story of our church to our church community through videos on social media, to in-service moments. And so that for me has really been fulfilling, because I think that sometimes I had looked at like my art and my faith going in different directions.
Right.
Really, the Lord is like, they're actually closer tied than you think. So that's been an amazing experience just recently that I've really been, a new journey that I've been on.
I saw a clip of the game plan. That was powerful. That was so powerful that and actually it was a message that you brought. And I really did enjoy it. I said, Trey is not acting. That's this right. Is coming from a very real place. That's right. And that, that made your Grammy very happy, because I could tell. I said, this boy's not acting. This is real. And that's a good thing, because whatever you do for Christ, that's what's going to last. And you know that. Now, let me ask you this one question, just so we can just kind of wrap it up a bit. Um, what about, is there a Christian acting guild that you can be a part of, or where you can relate with other actors who are Christians as well? Is there a guild of that kind that you know of, that you have maybe tapped into? Are you considering it, or maybe you need to start one if there's not one? Oh,
Right, right. You know, there's not. I'm not personally involved in any. I think that there are theaters around the country. I know that there's one in San Diego called Lamb's Players, and it's a faith-based theater.
mm-hmm.
Some of my instructors at my undergrad, it was a private institution, Vanguard University. They were very connected with that theater. But, you know, I think you would be surprised, Granby, that there are a lot of A-list Hollywood producers, actors, directors, executives who are believers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And one of them being Dr. Holly Carter, who's Kojic.
Mm-hmm.
The youngest vice president at Sony, executive at Sony. Oh my gosh, his name is escaping me. Devon Franklin. Also is an incredible artist and believer. And so in many ways, I think that there's a blending, that there's not like a one place where it's like, okay, well, you know, or I'll put it this way. I think that it's less exclusive.
Right. I got
right? That many artists who are Christian, even if they're making their own content, whether that be with their church or with other like-minded believers, I think the desire is to infiltrate culture.
Yeah, that's a good word.
You know, because that's what everybody's watching. That's where you have the most eyes on it, and that's really in many ways who need it the most.
Right, right.
You know, but there's a great program, I believe, for directors and writers called Act One, and they have a great training program for screenwriting, directors, producers. I believe it's act1.com. I haven't gone through the program, but I've been looking into it recently, so I'm like, hey, maybe they just need to go ahead and give me a scholarship since I gave them a shout out. But yeah, that's, you know, I also encourage people, if you're watching this and you're an artist and you're looking to get involved, the biggest advice that any A-lister that any webinar that I've gone to, any Q&A session with people who are successful and have made it, they all say the same thing right now, and it's make your own work.
Okay.
You have an iPhone, you have a camera. Look, you've got all you need basically to make a movie, to make a trailer, to shoot whatever you want. You can do it. If there's not a content that's out there that you're like, man, all of this stuff doesn't really line up with what I want to do, write it, make it yourself.
You do it. Yeah.
Because that's just what it is right now. The era is really like DIY. You know, put it on YouTube, put it on Instagram, put it on, you know, whatever, TikTok. Like, that's how also people are being discovered, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't limit.
Okay. You are, and actually you're in the process now of doing a project, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm finishing up directing a piece that I wrote and devised with a group of students at Vanguard. It's going to be a new play. It's a workshop. It's quite not finished just yet, but a workshop of a play entitled God So Loved Do We. So it's going to be all virtual, all digital. It's all shot on Zoom. And I'll have to get back to you and let you know when the premiere date and all those things.
Make sure you do. Yeah, that's so good. Well, we were, you know, Glenda Goodson.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And she just had her conference, and she had a wonderful director on there, Lindell Singleton. I don't know if you know him, but
I know the name, but I can't put a face.
Yeah, 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 yeah. There may be somebody you might want to look up because
Yeah.
you all have her in common. That you both of you know her. Um, but I am so happy to have had this time with you, and I know that your time is precious. And thank you so much for sharing it with your grandbaby. I'm just so appreciated.
Of course. Anytime. Anytime.
Yeah, and I was thinking yesterday, I think it was, I was thinking about you and Christina, who's a wonderful young woman. And I'm glad that the Lord blessed you to find her.
That's right.
And I'm glad she told you yes.
Right.
I
That's
think
right.
you're a great couple. Isn't she? Tell me what she does right quick before. Just give us a shout out regarding Christina.
She
Mhm.
actually is a senior account specialist in the accounting department at our undergrad where we met. And she also volunteers with the church on the worship team. Uh,
Okay.
she's a musician as well. We sing a folk over here.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And your Psalms 30, it's really good. And you and your sisters are such musicians and such artists. And there's just so much more for you. And I pray that God will continue to bless you and that He will give you uncommon favor,
Hmm.
that anybody that see your auditions or hear your music or your presentations, that they are just drawn to you. And I pray that the doors will fling wide open, and your job is to always give God the glory.
That's right.
And then say one thing to these young people who some of them have lost their way, some of them are floundering, but they have gifts in them. They are writers. They have ideas in them, but they are just kind of having trouble pulling things together or getting sidetracked. Talk to them just for as we close. Just say a word to them, please.
I just encourage you to fall in love with the process of creating and being creative.
Mhm.
Many times our culture is driven to have results, and those results are numbers based or success based or critical acclaim based. How many streams you got? Oh, how many people watched it? Or how big of the budget was the film? Or how many books did you sell? I think that God is concerned less with that,
Mhm.
as opposed to you just being obedient and doing it.
Yes.
Because even if for one person it was
Mhm.
impactful,
Mhm.
then it was worth it.
Yeah.
And God has given you those gifts to impact people personally, individually, not to necessarily be on the biggest stages in the world and achieve to do those things, strive for those things.
Mhm.
But if they never happen, don't diminish what you've done. Don't feel like your calling is less than because there's only 3 people who show up. Maybe those 3 people were the people that needed to be there.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, fall in love with the process, not the result.
Pain may come like a thief in the night. You may feel all alone, but that's a lie. We're by your side and will always be. We've got your back, whatever you need. Cause it's darkest at midnight, perfect time for morning. You can cry your eyes out, just make it to the morning. Cause it's darkest at midnight, rain may be pouring. You ain't gotta stay here, just hold on to the morning, yeah. Joy comes in the morning, if you can hold on, yeah. Joy comes in the morning, if you can hold on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Trey. I love you much. I think you know that. And tell Christina hello for us. And we are looking for you on every screen, every venue. We're looking for Trey Butler.
Amazing. Well, thank you
And
so
you are what we call the next big thing.
Hey,
Hallelujah.
now. Amen. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you just so much for your guidance, especially in my own marriage, for Christine and I. And thank you for doing this. This Ask Mother is reaching many people. So I'm appreciative and glad to call you my Gramby.
Oh, yeah. You're my grandson, and I love you so much. And God bless you. And just know that you've got some folks in Kentucky really praying for you.
Thank you. You got some out here on the West Coast, too. Love you.
Thank you, dear. God bless you.
All right. You too.